The next problem I'm going to be doing is problem number, problem number 14 on the in-class assignment. So this one gives you the function, the natural root or natural log 3x plus 4. So the first step is to find the domain. And if you remember, the domain consists of all reals. So in other words, our function must be greater than 0. In order to find where our function is greater than 0, we use the argument, or we use where our variable is in the equation. And so our variable is right here. It's attached with a 3x. So we're going to use this to 3x. That's our argument. So our argument is 3x in this case. And we need to do where 3x is greater than 0. So we're going to divide by 3. X is greater than 0. So our domain is going to be 0 to infinity. Okay. Now, the next step is we want to graph the function. So our original function is f of x is the natural log x. Okay, so that graph is right here. And if you remember, if you look on page 443 in your textbook, the original graph of a natural log has the points 1, 0, e1, and then 1 over e, comma negative 1. Okay, so those points are on the graph. This is our graph of the natural log of x. Okay. All right, so now that we have this, we need to transform that to our function that we have. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do the natural log 3x. So when this happens, it's like multiplying by 3, and you are compressing it by a factor of 3 horizontally. Okay? So this shows you what the graph looks like at natural log 3x. The next thing that happened from the original function of natural log x to our equation is that we added 4. So now if you see down there, that is the equation we are now given. So the plus 4 is our last transformation that we would do to the original graph. And so by the plus 4, and it's on the outside, that means we're adding 4. In other words, we are going to shift the graph up by 4. Okay, so this would be the graph of our function natural log 3x plus 4. Okay. The range of this would be negative infinity to infinity, and our vertical asymptote would be x equals 0. Now we need to find the inverse function. So in order to find our inverse function, we're going to change the f of x to y. Y equals natural log 3x plus 4. And then the next step, if you remember, was to switch the x and the y, and now we need to solve for y. Okay, so first step would be to subtract 4 from both sides. Now we're going to change this into an exponential equation. Okay, so remember, this would be log e. ln is the same thing as log e. So we're going to have e x to the negative 4 equals 3y. Then we'd want to divide by 3. So here would be our function when we divided it by 3. And now we kind of want to write it in a way that looks a little bit more like a function. So now we have the inverse function is 1/3 e x minus 4. Just rewriting that function, that inverse function for you. Here's the graph of the inverse function. Okay, so the graph of our inverse function. And remember, when we do the graph of the inverse function, the domain is actually the range of our original function, and the range of that is actually the domain of our original function. So our domain of the f of inverse is negative infinity to infinity, and the range of f inverse is 0 to infinity.